Hey everyone, welcome to another lesson. In this one, we're going to talk about another very important function when it comes to using for loops, and that is the range function. So the idea with this is that when it comes to using for loop, one of the things you want to remember is that you're not going to be always using the for loop for lists. You can use the for loop function for a lot of different things. And one of those things is going to be a range. So the idea with this is when you use a range function, you can actually use the loop to process a range of numbers or values. Now again, these can be integer values or different values that you receive. They have to be integer and float throughout your program based on whatever you calculate or code. So the idea with this is that you can actually use the range function to for loop within those numbers, right? Instead of having a list, and actually display these numbers. So in this case, for example, if you take a look, what I have in front in this slide is essentially just the for loop and number, right? And in this range, or this number that we're defining, this is the variable that we're defining, and the range is 1 and 50. And if you take a look, this is how you actually define a range. So for the variable that you want to use in and the range, and then the parentheses, 1 is the beginning number and 50 is the ending number. Now, one of the things you want to remember is that the last number, which is the 50, is actually the number that doesn't count. So this essentially means that the range, this for loop is going to loop between the numbers this is going to loop between is 1 to 49. That is it. So this is like basically how a range function works. Essentially, you loop between a certain amount of numbers or values. All right. So if you want to actually make it a little bit more advanced, one of the things you can do actually, you can add another value inside the parentheses, which is the third value. And this is basically the step value. So what you're telling the range function is that I want to loop between 1 to 49. Again, 50 doesn't count. It's a number before that. So it's 49. And then I want to go in steps of 10. So, and if you print that, you're going to get that result. So let's actually take a look at it, see how this actually looks in action. So if I actually come back here, and if you remember, we did use this a little bit in that practice that I was talking about, but let's actually get rid of this. And for example, we're going to say for number in range, and let's start for 1, and we're going to go 50. All right. And again, if I go here and if I print it number, and what is going to happen, let's get this right. All right, so what is going to happen is that essentially if I print this right now, if I run this code, we're going to get all the numbers from 1 to 49. Take a look at this. All right, let me save this and run this. Here we go. So guys, we got every value. Again, this essentially looped through this range, and we got 1 up to 49, right? So if I want to get 50, I would have to go 51. So if I run this, we're going to get 50. There you go. So let's actually use this step now. So if I actually added steps of 10, what I'm telling this program is I want to go by steps of 10, right? So if I run this again, take a look what happens. It starts from 1 and it goes 11, 21, 31, and 41, right? So that's pretty much how it works. Again, this is a very useful function, especially when you get into, you dealing with advanced data. And, like let's say you want to add even numbers and you want to find like certain numbers in the even numbers. Or for example, let's say you want to add the all the values between 1 to 100, and like you need to add these individual values to each other. That's when you use range function. And again, it has a lot of different functions based on what you want to build. And in next video, I'm actually going to do a quick exercise with the range function to show you exactly one of the things that you can actually use that for. But when you see range in a for loop, keep in mind that it is ranging between values. So just keep that in mind. This is ranging between values, and the third number is essentially the step value. All right, guys. So let me know if you have any questions. If not, I'll see you in the next video where we use the range in action.